We have not done anything to the non-governmental organizations that are getting federal grant money. And they're becoming the travel agencies for these illegal immigrants. They're the ones putting them on buses, putting them on planes, giving them $1,300 to $1,400 each of taxpayer money. And so we should be able to revoke those licenses of these 501c3 organizations, like a Catholic Charities, that is operating and aiding and abetting human and sex trafficking here in the state of Texas. So there are many things that a governor could do.
So the easy version of this for guys like us would be, okay, the Biden administration wants to destroy America. You know, the Democrats want to flood the country. It's all about demographics or voting patterns or keep the people on the dole, et cetera. I mean, do you think it's as simple as all of that? Or is there something, is this ineptitude? Is this that these people just don't know how to govern, don't know what they're doing? Or do you think it's something, you know, directly nefarious?
It is nefarious. It's intentional and purposeful, because when I look at this open borders agenda that was implemented unconstitutionally, I mean, you cannot give up the sovereignty of the United States of America by executive order. But then you look at H.R. 1 and what H.R. 1 talks about, because both of them came about at the same time. And H.R. 1 says that there will be no voter registration roll review. There'll be no picture ID, that we will be doing voting by unsolicited mail-in ballots and online voter registration, same-day voter registration, same-day voting. And it does talk about illegals being able to vote. And you look at this infrastructure, the human infrastructure bill, where they're talking about granting amnesty. And so by the end of this year, we will be looking at close to 2 million illegal immigrants. This is a record high for the United States of America, have crossed the border and come into this country.
So I'm sure some people are watching going, well, wait a minute, Abbott's a Republican. He's over there. Has he dropped the ball on this?
Without a doubt, you have to wonder why the governor hasn't done a lot better, and we could have seen this coming. That's what leadership is all about. Leadership is about having vision and being very prescient, and so you should have taken all the measures necessary to ensure that you had our own Texas Military Department, our National Guard, ready to secure our border and make sure that we did not see this flood of illegals coming here. We needed to make sure that we could stand on our constitutional right, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, to be able to secure our border. And I think another thing, an executive order from the governor of the state of Texas to declare these cartels as a terrorist organization, because, you know, I was in Iraq, I was in Afghanistan, and, you know, in Afghanistan, the Taliban uses opium as a means to, fuel their efforts. And so what are they doing here? They're using fentanyl, methamphetamines, marijuana. So it's the exact same thing. We're fighting an insurgency, and they're shooting across the border into the state of Texas, which is an act of war. If you declare them as a terrorist organization, then you go after their resources and their finances. You go after their assets. You freeze it and you seize it. We have not done anything to the non-governmental organizations that are getting federal grant money. And they're becoming the travel agencies for these illegal immigrants. They're the ones putting them on buses, putting them on planes, giving them $1,300 to $1,400 each of taxpayer money. And so we should be able to revoke those licenses of these 501c3 organizations, like a Catholic Charities, that is operating and aiding and abetting human and sex trafficking here in the state of Texas. So there are many things that a governor could do.
Are you surprised how bad everything's gotten under Biden? Obviously, you didn't vote for Biden, but are you shocked at, only 11 months in, just sort of across the board, how bad it is?
No, I'm not, because this is what progressive socialism is all about. And, when I was in Congress back in 2011, 2012, I just looked at what they believed in. I looked at their policies. I looked at their ideological agenda, and I called them out as socialists, Marxists, some of them even communists. And of course, you remember, people went sideways on me for that. But guess what happens now today? They tell you. We're socialists, we're Marxists. And so when you look at that philosophy of governance, I'm not surprised by what they're doing. They're doing exactly what they believe in, what they say. The fascism, the suppression of free speech and freedom of expression, calling parents who just want to stand up and make sure that their kids get a good education, domestic terrorists. And that's even happening here in Texas, where we have had two parents in Round Rock, just north of Austin. They were arrested in their homes for just going and speaking out at a school board meeting. This is not America. This is not the Texas that people want.
I got to do a mea culpa here, man, because I remember when you were talking about this stuff way back when, and I was a lefty and I was on the Young Turks at the time, and I'm sure I did videos on their channel. It's probably saying that you were nuts, because you saw it early and I wasn't there yet. So times change, I suppose.
Well, in Ecclesiastes, King Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. And George Santayana once said those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And I think that's the important thing, again, about leadership and being a statesman. You have to say things that people need to hear, not what they want to hear. And I was willing to take the heat because, look, in 1985, I went through Checkpoint Charlie. And I went over to East Berlin and I saw what it was like. And my background is in political science, political theory. And this is textbook stuff, what we see happening here, Dave. And I think, kudos to you for having the courage to stand up and say, hey, look, I can't believe in this stuff anymore. I mean, you live out there in California. You see what is going on. This is not what we're supposed to have in a constitutional republic. And it doesn't matter. R&D after a name is starting to mean less and less. It's about how you see the relationship of the individual to the institution of government. It's very simple. The Declaration of Independence says that the individual is supreme. They are sovereign because their rights come from a creator God. If you're atheist or whatever, that doesn't matter. Your rights don't come from an entity called government. Your life, your liberty, your property, as John Locke talked about in the Second Treatise of Government, and your pursuit of happiness. And we've got to get back to those basic fundamentals.
Are you worried that just not enough people care about what you just said there? Last time I saw you actually was at Glenn Beck's museum, where he's put together this extraordinary. What's the name of the museum?
It's the American Journey Experience.
The American Journey Experience. It's absolutely incredible. He has a trove of artifacts that are unimaginable. I mean, I literally held the Olympic torch that was held by Jesse Owens in front of Hitler. I mean, I couldn't even believe they would let me touch that thing. I mean, that's just amongst the incredible stuff that they have. But when I was there and I saw you there, it sort of goes to what you're saying right now. There's a history that we have. There are documents that we have that freed us, but not enough people care about them or seem to be willing to stand up for them. Are you surprised by that? What can we do to reverse that?
I think it's starting to happen. And, I will say one of the positives that came out of COVID was that parents actually started to see what their kids were not being taught. And they started to pay attention. And now, for the first time, you never heard about people going to school board meetings 2 years ago, but now they are. And they're challenging the status quo. They're challenging the institution of indoctrination. And they don't like that. And that's why they're fighting back vehemently against it. So I do think that there's an awakening moment here in the United States of America. But, Alexander Fraser Tytler talked about the cycle of democracies. And he said that a democracy can't last as a permanent form of government. It can normally last until voters realize they can vote their own largesse from the public treasury. And one of the pivot points for that decline is apathy and complacency. And so I think that we've seen that, but it's not too late for us to recover from it. But this is an ideological war that we're in. There's no doubt about it between constitutional conservatism and progressive socialism and Marxism.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.